The police archives could be a good place to look for information on this Samuel Cutter that Moore was talking about. I'm sure that there's a nice thick file on him in here. Posters telling you the advantages of enrolling in the U.S. Army. Traveling the world, great experiences, and a sense of pride. Thankfully, they put a picture of a tank on there. Otherwise, I'd have thought that this was an advertisement for a cruise line. The police archives have all the information on the people they arrest. If you did something, your picture is definitely in here. The police... There aren't any knobs or locks. The only way to open this door is using the reader next to it. A card reader. It's the first time I've seen one. Swipe your card in that thing and it tells you if you are allowed to get in or not. It's all simple if you have a card. I won't get too far without a card. There's a light over the door. I think it signals if the door is opened or closed. That red light makes me think it's closed now. Hi, officer.
How can I help you?
I have some questions about your files.
What do you want to know?
How can I get in?
Simple. A signature on a form and 9 months of police academy. Buddy, access to the files is reserved to police officers. No badge, no access.
What's that device next to the door?
They put it here a few months ago. Old Sam, who managed the archives, retired. And rather than bringing in another officer, the department replaced him with this thing.
How does it work?
Every officer has a special punch card. When they go into the archives, they just take out the card and swipe it through this machine. The machine recognizes the officer and opens the archives door.
So, every officer has his own card. Victoria will definitely have one. I don't have anything else to ask you.
Better.
Goodbye, officer.
Goodbye.
Well, I don't see any other option. It's Victoria's office. No, I didn't come to stick my nose in Victoria's business. A map of New York and a few old photographs of Mexico, Victoria's native country. A map of New York. I'm not really into collecting postcards. There's a sign on the desk. Victoria Diaz, Police Sergeant. This girl has come a long way. She was just a shy rookie when I met her. The desk drawers, a great place to keep the access cards for the archives. It's too dark to see what's in the drawers. Yes, let's see if I can find this damned access card for the archives. There's some kind of combination that locks the last drawer. combination was the Mexican flag, Victoria and her sentimentality. The advertisement of a ferry company that connects Manhattan to Glen Cove. Maybe that's where Malone sent Victoria. The card to get into the archives. I'll take it. I hope that Victoria doesn't get upset if I take her card for a while. As they say, open sesame. When I was a police officer, this was Old Sam's station. He handled the archive. He knew the location of every file by heart. You told him the name of a guy, and he could tell you which rack and shelf it was on. He was a good man whose job was to file murder and assault reports. New York police, you can trust us. I didn't trust the police when I was an officer. Imagine now that I'm accused of murder. A fire extinguisher. Interesting. If you put the name of the person you're looking for in this sort of calculator, you get the number of his file. I wonder what old Sam would think if he knew he'd been replaced by this gadget. Samuel Cutter's file is 6120057. I should remember it. There isn't a file on Sean. It probably wasn't filed yet. No file with this name. No file with this name. All the files on the people arrested by various New York departments are here. Everyone has a 7-digit number. Without it, it's impossible to find the information you're looking for. Folder 6120057, Samuel Cutter. Here you are, Samuel Cutter. Samuel Cutter, attorney, jailed on May 7, 1933 for the murder of 4 police officers. It's a summary of the trial where Cutter was accused of murdering 4 police officers. The verdict was unanimous, innocent, due to lack of evidence. In this city, your innocence is proportionate to how good your lawyers are. Cutter's lawyers must have been the best on the block. It's a summary in this. Here's the report on Cutter's incarceration. It looks like it's the work of that snake, Malone. Like Moore said, after his arrest, many others from Black Lily were arrested too, definitively dismantling the organization. The boss and his crew were arrested, and then there was peace. Not even the movies have such happy endings. Patrick Olson's name is among those of the people who were arrested. That's the same name Victoria mentioned when she was talking about the case in which Sean's name came up. Patrick Olson's file is 6088090. File 6088090, Patrick Olson. Let's see what I can find in this file. Patrick Olson. A gardener? This man's profile doesn't really seem to be that of a criminal. It looks more like that of an ideal neighbor. His arrest report. He was with his family when they arrested him for the bombing of Rick's Cafe on the night of November 5th, 1933. A regular gardener without any record who blows up a cafe on 81st Street. Kind of odd. The report is just a bunch of pointless bureaucratic stuff. There are no details about the bombing. His arrest report. He was with his family when they arrested him for the bombing of Rick's Cafe on the night of November 5th, 1933. A regular gardener without any record who blows up a cafe on 81st Street. Kind of odd. The report is just a bunch of pointless bureaucratic stuff. There are no details about the bombing. Newspapers. The New York Voice, to be precise. As soon as it's printed, at least a dozen copies are filed here, for research. I'll look for the edition from. It's the date of the bombing of Rick's Cafe that Patrick Olson was blamed for. There must be more information about it in the paper. Here's the article about the bombing. The article says that at 12:23 a.m., an explosion completely destroyed Rick's Cafe, a joint on 81st Street near Central Park. 3 people died in the explosion. The cafe's owner, Nick Fantini, 43 years old, married. A woman walking by the joint, Eleanor Guter, 37 years old, teacher. And August Zindler, 58 years old, esteemed archaeology professor at the Civic Museum in New York. Zindler, Professor Zindler. Dannazione, it's the same name that was in my dream. So far, these visions have always been correct. Maybe I should visit the Civic Museum in New York. The article says that at 3, the cafe, a woman, and Zindler. Dannazione, it's the same name that... So far, these visions have always been correct. Maybe I should visit...
Where you want to go this time?
The Civic Museum, Central Park.
Whatever you want.
Civic Museum of New York. It closed about 3 years ago for some expansion work, but the crisis stopped everything halfway. Since then, it's stayed this way, a mausoleum of our past that no one cares about anymore. The world of dinosaurs. It's a shame I'm no longer that age where you get excited by seeing the bones of something that died thousands of years ago. The main entrance to the museum. I seriously doubt they left the doors unlocked. This museum has been closed for at least 3 years. The economic crisis has convinced more than one mayor that continuing to invest in the past isn't a good deal. The museum's opening hours. Obviously, they don't offer any night visits. Some scaffolding parts. There's my reward for having traveled halfway across Manhattan to get here. The door is open, and it certainly wasn't the caretaker who left it like that. The lock was shot in. Whoever it was had to be very interested in something that's inside the museum, or what was inside the museum. I don't think anyone will be too upset if I take a little nighttime tour of the museum. A map of ancient Persia. The newspaper article that I found at the police department was about the professor's studies on Persia. I don't see anything interesting here. I'll admit that these beasts must have been pretty scary at their time, but nothing compared to an ambitious New York lawyer. These crates must contain the exhibits that are being moved from the various rooms. Some crates are labeled, but it's too dark to see what's written on them. Let's see. The label says the find in this case comes from Samarra, Iraq. It was displayed in room 13 before it was moved here. Iraq should be in Professor Zindler's area of expertise. I should check on the Islamic map. A map of ancient Persia. Samarra. That's the same name I read on one of the crates in the atrium, so its contents must be displayed in the Islamic area. It was from room 13. Room 13 must be the old Islamic area, and that's where the professor's office must be. Now I have to find the directions to room 13. Wandering around the museum would not be a good idea. The showcase is empty. All the exhibits must have been moved somewhere else. Probably out of fear that they might have gotten damaged during the work, or that some worker might have decided to take a souvenir home. Now that I know that room 13 is the Islamic area, I shouldn't have any problems finding it, thanks to this map. Good. Now all I have to do is find Professor Zindler's office in room 13. It wasn't easy, but eventually I made it to my destination. crates, probably waiting to be transferred to another room. A long wait considering they've been here for years. This crate is open. There's nothing inside. This museum's architect must have gone wild when he designed this room. It's the first time I've seen a water tank in a museum. Nice chandelier. It'd look great in my office. Graphic reproduction of a ziggurat, a Templar construction from Mesopotamia. At least that's what the label says. Professor Zindler's office. Lots of books, old photographs, and some museum pieces. The professor's office seems pretty normal. Normal if it weren't for a dead body in the middle of the room. There is no doubt that this is Professor Zindler. It's the same face I saw in the newspaper. His body is cold, but not too much. He can't have been dead more than 7 hours. And that bullet hole in his forehead makes me think that he didn't die of natural causes. There is no doubt that this is Professor Zindler. It's the same face I saw in the newspaper. The newspaper said that he had died during the bombing of Ricky's cafe, so either the professor is back from the dead, or the bombing was just a setup. I think I believe in the second option, even though the first one is definitely very fascinating. Better not touch it. I'm already being investigated for Sean's death. Leaving my fingerprints on a second dead body wouldn't be a great idea. There's something on the ground. It's a wax cylinder for a dictaphone. It looks like there's a recording on it. If I could get the pieces in the right order, I could listen to it. Perfect. It looks like all the pieces fit together. Now I just need to find a way to make them stick together. Yes, if I melt the wax on the edges, the various pieces should stick together without any problem. It looks like all the pieces are attached well. These must be theology textbooks, given the number of times that the words God and divine recur in them. There's at least a dozen different versions of the Old Testament. Some seem pretty old. Some books are missing from this shelf, and it looks like they were taken in a hurry. The only books left are those on esotericism. It looks like someone slept on this sofa. The professor is at least 5'7", so he is definitely too tall for this sofa. It means it couldn't have been him using it. These are photographs of archaeological digs. The professor is in both, next to some fat guy with a jovial face. One's dated August 3rd, 1925. The other, November 8th, 1928. It's an archaeology degree given to Professor August Zindler. A picture of the Tower of Babel. According to the Bible, mankind started building it to reach God. And God punished them by making everyone speak a different language so that they couldn't finish it. Looks like I still remember something of those catechism lessons my mother made me go to when I was a kid. Vases, tablets, and some other objects that some researcher would call fascinating. I'll just call them knickknacks. There's a dictaphone on the table. It looks like it was used recently. It's the dictaphone's on-off button. Without the wax cylinder, it's pointless to turn it on. It should be okay this way. Now I only have to turn it on. And now let's see what's on the cylinder. The cylinder is running, and the voice of a woman with a French accent comes from the dictaphone's small speaker. She introduces herself as Michelle Nicholas from the Congregation of Five. The message was recorded for the professor and explains the details of a plan to get him and the girl out of the museum. According to the plan, a man sent from the congregation will come to pick up the professor and bring him and the girl to a safe house. The recording ends with the woman thanking the professor for having taken the girl away from a city with an incomprehensible name. A French woman, a congregation with a pretentious name, and a professor that kidnaps girls. A lot of information for my already confused head. So it was the professor who brought the girl here. This explains many things. Sean was probably one of the men who was supposed to get the professor and the girl, according to Michelle Nicholas's plan. But something must have gone wrong, and Zindler is the one who paid the price for it. I remember an organization called the Congregation of Five being mentioned in the incision. I'd better do some research on Michelle Nicholas. Maybe the police archives could be helpful this time as well.
Where you want go this time?
The police department, Hoboken.
We see.
As they say, open sesame. It looks like there's a file on Michelle Nicholas, too. 607-0121. File 607-0121, Michelle Nicholas. Here's Michelle Nicholas's file. Nicholas's profile. As I had guessed from the name, she has French origins. Odd. Under crimes, there's nothing but a vague, possible involvement in a criminal organization. That's a pretty weak reason to open a file on someone. These are reports filled out by different officers. It looks like they were tailing Michelle Nicholas. It doesn't happen often in New York, but when it does, the police make sure that at least a couple officers are following the suspect. And it looks like Malone was the one to request the stakeout, at least judging by the signature on these pages. This seems to be the report on the last sighting of Michelle Nicholas. She arrived in New York on October 28, 1933, and she disappeared on November the 5th, the same day of the staged death of Professor Zindler. According to the report, in that week she was renting a room, and surprise, she chose Slavonsky's apartments to hide in. If you have little money and a not exactly immaculate criminal record, it's the best place to go. Who knows, maybe that stingy Russian Slavonsky might be able to give me some useful information about our runaway Frenchwoman.
Where you want go this time?
Essex Street, Lower East Side.
Okay.
What can I do for you, Del Nero?
Have you ever heard of Michelle Nicholas?
Michelle Nicholas. That name doesn't mean anything to me.
A French woman. She stayed in your apartments last November.
There is a lot of turnover here, Del Nero. I can't remember everyone who passes through.
I've lived here for more than 2 years, Slavansky. There's no way a French woman would have passed through this hovel of losers without attracting some attention.
I'm not interested in that. I'm just interested in rent money. Why are you looking for Michelle Nicholas?
I'm looking for a wife. I opened the phone book and found her name.
Your sarcasm will get you into trouble sooner or later, Del Nero.
Now tell me something I don't know. Michelle Nicholas. I know she stayed here, so stop lying to me.
Okay. She stayed here for about 1 month. I only saw her when she moved in and out. She paid her rent in advance and I never had to see or talk to her. She had apartment on top floor, number 607. Happy now?
Do you know what she did for a living, or why she rented the apartment from you?
I'm not kind of guy who butts around in private lives of people. That's your job, detective.
I'd like to see apartment 607.
Sorry, Del Nero, but apartment 607 isn't available right now.
Why?
He's being renovated.
You decided to renovate an apartment? I have a hard time believing that.
I don't care if you believe or not. You're not going to see apartment.
Slavansky won't let me in that room. I know that. I'll have to find another way to get in there. Goodbye, Slavansky.
Goodbye, Del Nero.
Apartment 607. This is the apartment where Michelle Nicholas was hiding. I don't believe that lie about renovations. Slavansky is definitely hiding something. No one's answering. There's no sound coming from inside. There's no one there. Getting in there is the only way I can find out something. Dannazione. Something tells me that there aren't just pillows underneath this sheet. And this makes the third dead body of the evening. Whoever is under this sheet must have seen better times. I don't like to disturb the dead, but I have to find out who's under this sheet.
I wouldn't do it if I were you.
Slavansky, what are you planning to do with that old iron?
Whatever I want to if you don't do as I say.
So you're mixed up in all this too?
I don't know anything about this, Del Nero. I just have orders to follow.
From who? Black Lily?
You're in no position to ask questions, Del Nero. You're more in position to answer them.
I'm not in the habit of answering men who point a gun at me.
You'll make exception this time. Tell me, Del Nero, who are you working for?
You know perfectly well that I don't work for anyone.
I know you are a private detective, but that might just be cover.
If I had another job, I'd get a better place than this one, where the owners don't point guns at their renters.
You might be doing this just for your ideals, Del Nero.
I'm not a guy who goes in for ideals. They get you killed too easily.
So why are you looking for Michelle?
Michelle. You called her by her name. I guess you know her well.
I'm the one asking questions, Del Nero. Why are you looking for Michelle?
I found her name on a recording from an archaeologist or someone like that.
Are you talking about Professor Zindler?
Looks like you know a lot, Slavansky.
Where's Professor now?
At the Central Park Museum, with a hole in his forehead.
I see. Looks like a lot of people are looking for you lately, Del Nero. The only reason to look for someone is because he has something other people don't have.
If you're talking about my sense of humor, you might be right.
Knock it off, Del Nero. I get orders from group called Congregation of Five.
The Congregation of Five, the same one Michelle Nicholas belonged to.
Exactly, Del Nero. And we are having big problems with Black Lily Mafia. We both want same thing, girl. And Congregation thinks you have her.
Well, they're wrong.
I don't think so. Visit you received tonight confirms that we aren't only ones who think you have girl.
Two wrongs don't make a right.
Come on, Del Nero, don't be fooled. Do you have girl?
I'm not saying anything until I meet with Michelle Nicholas face to face.
It'd be pretty hard for you to talk to her.
Let's cut out this nonsense and tell me where she is.
She's right there near you, under that sheet.
So that's Michelle Nicholas's body under there?
That's right. Black Lily got to her before she found girl.
Dannazione. Michelle Nicholas was maybe the last chance I had to find out about the girl and about what happened tonight.
If you want answers, you'll have to wait until tomorrow morning, Del Nero.
What's happening tomorrow morning?
Tomorrow at about 6 a.m., Congregation will send a guy to take Michelle's place.
Tomorrow morning? I'd say timing isn't your strong point.
Our organization doesn't have same means as Black Lily.
And who's going to take care of the girl until this guy gets here?
Same person who's been taking care of her so far. You.
So I'm supposed to protect the girl until this guy gets here? That's what you're asking me?
That's right.
Why should I trust this guy?
You don't have choice. Moreover, I wouldn't have any problem to take girl with my own hands if I had to. But I'm not a man of action. I'm just building owner on Lower East Side. You are definitely the best person to take care of girl for now.
Who is this guy that's supposed to come tomorrow?
Don't know yet. Don't worry, you'll meet him as soon as he gets here.
What happens once I turn over the girl?
Like I said, I just rent apartments down here. These are questions for guy who'll get here tomorrow morning. And now, if you'll excuse me, I have to get back to work.
That's it? You come in here pointing a gun at me, and now you're leaving?
I just wanted to be sure what your intentions are with girl.
And talking about it was enough?
That's not all, Del Nero. In my line of work, I learned to understand who you can trust. And it's funny to say it, but you seem reliable. And now, I'll say goodbye, Del Nero. Good luck.
Now that I have shed some light on the identity of the girl, I'd better get back to finding Sean's killer. I must find out who shot him. Even if my French is awful, I think this says the way to the light. There's a pantry here. There's enough food for a month. Steam's coming from the pipes. Yes, using the steam that's coming out, I should be able to get the label off of the piece of bottle I picked up. Let's see. Excellent. Now I have a Grog de Ricardo Blanco label ready for use.
What can I do for you, Del Nero?
Tell me about the Congregation of Five.
What do you want to know?
Why are you looking for the girl?
I don't know, Del Nero. If you want answers, you have to wait for a guy the congregation sent to deal with girl.
When will he get here?
Tomorrow morning around 9 a.m.
And until then, I'll have to babysit the girl, right?
Right, Del Nero. There's no other choice.
How did you get in?
I was never part of organization. My old man was member. We moved to America for his job. He deciphered codes for them.
So, what's your role?
When my old man was too old to work, he decided to buy this building. Congregation helped him. The only provision is that if they need it, it has to be safe house for their members.
And this safe house is apartment 607.
Exactly, Del Nero. That's why that room is always closed.
What's the relationship between the congregation and Sean McLean?
McLean must be your friend they found dead tonight, right?
Yes, even if friend isn't the right word.
Anyway, I only know members who stayed in my building. I never heard of your friend.
I don't have any other questions. Goodbye, Slavonsky.
Goodbye, Del Nero.
It's not a self-service. If I want something, I have to ask Greta. Hi, Greta.
Hi, Jack.
Do you have a bottle of grog?
Grog? Did you decide to drive the last nail in your liver's coffin?
It's not for me, and it would take too long to explain why I need it.
As usual. Anyway, I don't think I have any grog. No one drinks that stuff. But if you feel like, you can check. There might be a few old bottles on the first shelves, the ones closest to the mill.
I'll take a look. Thanks. Okay, I'm going now.
Bye, Jack.
If I glue this label on any of these bottles, I could have a bottle of what, at first glance, could look like a bottle of grog. I doubt that the harbor master guy will figure out the swindle, or at least he won't until I get the information I need. It looks perfect. It looks the same as the bottles of grog I found at the port.
Where you want go this time?
the Melville Port in Brooklyn.
Okay.
Maybe this will help loosen up your tongue.
Where'd you get that bottle?
With a little brain, you can get anything in this city. Tell me what you saw tonight, and it's yours.
I can't.
Let's stop beating around the bush. I have something that you want, and you have something that I want. Let's not get any pointless morals mixed up in the matter.
Okay, you convinced me.
Tell me who boarded tonight.
Around closing time, the guy who was found bumped off on the dock came here. He had a little girl with him. He asked if he could board the Sainte Marie de la Mer.
The Sainte Marie de la Mer. It's the same name that was in my dream. First that hitman, and now the name of the ship. How's all this possible? Did you see anyone else other than the guy with the girl?
Now that I think about it, yes. I had just closed the harbor master's office when I saw a man near the lamppost. I had never seen him around here before. He wasn't a sailor. He was too elegant to be an old salt.
Describe him.
I only saw him in passing. It's better to avoid looking at anyone for too long around here.
Did you notice anything particular?
He was dressed well, but that's it.
Where did you say he was?
Under that lamppost over there, the one next to the sacks.
Okay. I don't need anything else.
Good luck, son.
This is where the harbor master saw the guy come after Sean. This is where the... Maybe I'll find something interesting. There are some cigarette butts here. It looks like the guy tailing Sean had to wait for a long while. Let's take a look. The smell of this butt isn't of regular old tobacco. It's hash, which isn't exactly easy to find. It might be a lead to follow, but I can't think of any connection between this cigarette butt and what happened tonight. Maybe I need to think about it. Let's try to think about it. John said that the guy he saw near his cab was smoking a cigarette that smelled funny. And now I find this hashish smoke. There's no doubt that the guy that was following Sean and the one that Sean saw by his cab is the same guy. The cigarette butt won't be much help figuring out the identity of this mystery man, but I might find other clues. There are pieces of paper lying around. It looks like they formed a matchbox once. Who knows why it was ripped up like this? If I piece it back together, maybe I can figure out something more. Okay, now the pieces are coming together. Unfortunately, I don't have all of them here. I can't read exactly what's written on the box. It certainly refers to some kind of business. Maybe the telephone book that I have in my office will be of some help.
Where you want go this time?
Essex Street, Lower East Side.
Okay.
Old Abraham's jewelry store. In the end, we even managed to close down that old Jewish tightwad. If this recession continues, in another 2 years, the Lower East Side won't have any businesses left open. Yes, this matchbox definitely comes from a store or joint in New York. Comparing it with the names of businesses in the phone book, I should be able to figure out the full name. And get the address, too. I can see the word book on the matchbox. It must be a bookstore. Let's start looking from there. Little Peninsula. The name matches. It's a bookstore on the Upper East Side, on 65th. I think I better check it out. I don't need the matchbox anymore. I can leave it here.
Let me guess. We have to go somewhere.
"65th Street, Upper East Side."
We see.
And here I am on the Upper East Side. Luxury stores, offices of diplomats, and gentlemen with deep pockets. A right place to work on my intolerance of hypocrisy.